either communication-wise or through falling trees or other types of slides.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, what is a financial go kit, and where should we keep it, and when should we put it together?
Well, like
And we have a
anything,
slide for this too. Financial go
yes.
kit. Okay. Go ahead.
Like anything in terms of emergency services, we recommend you have it now or
Okay.
yesterday would be
Okay.
even
So you
better.
should have already had it. Okay.
But you know, it's best to try to put it together as soon as you possibly can. We call it a go kit because it means you can pick it up and go. Hopefully when that event happens. We typically encourage people to have one not only in their house but in the trunk of their car. A go kit of personal items and personal documents might include such things as birth certificates, marriage certificates, your tax returns, maybe your latest one that you have. It might also include a copy of your Social Security card, your driver's license, your escrow papers or your deed to your home if you own a home, and your insurance records for your health insurance and also your house insurance. Very, very important to have those things, as well as lists of your contact information for your credit cards and other obligations you might have, any loans, and other identification papers such as ownership documents for cars and other vehicles are important to have.
So how would you carry this?
Well, you can rely on the good old method of just making paper copies. However, one of the things we've been able to do with the new technology is we have started suggesting people scan these documents onto a CD-ROM. And it's a much easier way of being able to carry that with you. You're able to have it on one little storage disk and you can recreate those documents. Many governmental entities and corporations will take a copy of a document if you've lost the original document. And the great thing about a CD is that you can copy it a couple of different times. So maybe you could have one in your Go Kit, and you could also have one in the trunk of your car. And maybe you can send one to a family member, somebody who might be the trustee or executor of your estate. Maybe hopefully they're in another town or they're in another even state, so that if an event happens here, it's not going to, it'll be somebody who's not affected with what's happening. The interesting thing about the San Bruno incident was that not only did homes burn to the ground, but cars burned to the ground, and people had to leave immediately. They, some of them ran out of the house and were singed on the back of their hair and legs, and so they did not have time even to grab what we call the Go Kit. So in that circumstance, it would have been very beneficial for them to have a CD-ROM that was off-site somewhere else with a family member.
Some people even suggest putting it in a safe deposit box.
You can if you've got a safe deposit box. Not a lot of people have those anymore, but you can certainly put it in one. You can also get a fireproof safe at one of the larger big box stores from Costco or Lowe's or Home Depot, and they're fairly inexpensive. I think they're maybe within the $100 to $150 range, which when you factor in the hassle of trying to replace all these documents is a fairly cheap way to make sure that you are keeping those documents that are the most important.
Right. And some people say also, have a little back. I mean, now we've got digital pictures and everything. Why not keep some of those, little treasures in a safe place like that? So that's another thought, beyond the financial part,
right,
but as far as, family memories and heritage and what have you.
Well, one of the things you hear from people when they say, what would you take with you, or what would you pack if you knew you only had a half an hour to get stuff out of your house?
Yeah.
Most people say things like, I take my kids' pictures or my wedding pictures or photo albums, and you're absolutely right. You can put them on a thumb drive and a flash drive and have those things with you. And that is another really good way to inventory the items in your house, is to take those digital photos and store them and in a format that you will be able to recreate them, because one of the best ways to prove what it is you had in your house is by having the photos of the actual object itself.
Okay. So what are some of the documents to include in the Financial Go Kit? And we've got an essential Go Kit items slide for people to see here.
It is. Well, again, we talked about some of the things, such as the ownership documents for your house, your car, your important personal documents, birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates, some other things that people may not think of, copies of insurance policies. One of the things that we tell people is going to be important is have some cash. Have some rolls of quarters, because
this isn't going to fit on a thumb drive.
No, but it can be in your little backpack or something.
Yeah.
Because one of the problems with being in an event where the electricity is not on and is not going to be on, you will not have access to ATM machines, and we are a culture that relies on our debit cards, and we're not going to be able to just swipe the card and have money available and be able to pay for things. So we will probably need to have a little bit of ready cash there in order to be able to do some small transactions in the time it takes to get some help in.
Okay. So what other resources are there for information about this subject and other disaster preparation?
Well, our emergency services organizations, both the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, we also had the California Emergency Management, it's called CalEMA, we like acronyms, and you can go online. I put both of those sites on the slide that you'll see here.
The other resources slide.
Right, and then our local Red Cross has lists of not only the classes and things that are available, and including information on the workplace training, but it also does have the very specific information about the types of kits and what should go in your kits. And the web address for the local Silicon Valley chapter is on the slide as well.
Okay. So we do still have a little time left.
Well, good. I'm going to turn the tables on you here, Mike.
Okay.
I only warned him just before we started here. So you have a CPA business, and
Yes.
you've told us what you do with your financial records. How about readying your staff for being able to survive 72 hours, which is the recommended time? Do you have a preparedness kit for your staff?
Not really. Yeah, I have a track over at the high school, and so we're going to practice running. The fortunate thing, or maybe the fortunate thing, is my office is located close to home, and my only employee right now happens to be my daughter, although she doesn't live with us. But the point is that we're in about a 5-minute walk or so from my home, so that might help us out. If there's a severe earthquake and we can't get into the house, we will probably be in trouble.
Right.
But anyway, so guilty as charged.
Well, and as I mentioned to Mike, the purpose was not to embarrass him, but to point out that it's very common that people may be prepared at home, but they might not have a similar plan for their work. So one of the things we encourage people to do is make sure they have their contact list posted for the family members they would like to get in touch with. Also to have that meeting place established, that if you can't get back into your workplace or your home, where else will you meet so that you can catch up with the rest of your family members. Make sure you have that person designated for out of town, who can, both of you can, all of the people in your family can call into, because it's pretty likely that the communication within the area is going to be very difficult. But many times we can call out of the area. So if you have an Aunt Mary in Chicago, that would be a great person to be able to call and say, I'm safe, have you heard from anyone else? And that's an excellent idea. Chicago might not be a very good place right now because they're having a huge snowstorm.
They're having their own problems.
They would want to call us and say, we're safe, and how about our cousins in Wisconsin? But
now, what about cell phones? What happens with cell phone service?
Well, a lot of times, depending on the kind of disaster, but if it's a major windstorm, if it's an earthquake, we're going to lose the cell coverage because the towers are going to go down and they will be interrupted.
And these days, there's not many payphones that are around anymore.
There are very few payphones. Very few people have landlines any longer.
Yeah, well, we still do, but I remember after Loma Prieta quake, our phone service was out for
and your phone
days,
service, your landline service may be interrupted, especially because the stuff is on fiber optic cable. And so even though those have been installed recently, if those are cut anywhere, you're not going to be able to get the coverage. You won't be able to get that phone line out. So until they get satellite trucks in to restore the cable, you're going to have to figure out the old-fashioned method of trying to contact people.
Smoke signals, semaphore, whatever.
Well, there's a number of folks who have...
He's in a Morse code, right?
Yeah, who've reinstituted their interest in ham radios. And the hams have been able to communicate with each other because they're on different radio frequencies. You can get a little ham radio set at Radio Shack or somewhere similar to that for not very much money. And
some you have to be licensed for, I guess, but there's some that like CB type or
you can
whatever,
have the handheld CB radios that have radiuses up to maybe 100 yards, 200 yards, sometimes a couple of miles, depending on the kind that you get. The training for ham radio is a one-day training, and we do have a cooperative effort with some local ham groups, and that actually is an excellent way to make sure you're prepared and can contact people.
Okay. So we have about a minute or so left. Maybe any final words of wisdom?
Well, my final words of wisdom are to don't delay. Start planning your kit. And as with our neighbors in San Bruno, we never know what kind of emergency and when it's going to hit. One of the local chapters that I work with has established a 20-week preparedness guide so that if it's too overwhelming to do it all at once, take it in small pieces, but do start.
Right. And bear in mind, I mean, I was talking about the situation, you can't get back in the house. Back, again, Loma Prieta quake time, and particularly in the Santa Cruz area here that I remember, a lot of the buildings were knocked out and people could not get access to their records.
That's true.
And so, it's a big concern, and you really should be prepared. Well, folks, we're about out of time. So I want to thank you again for joining us for Financial Insider Weekly. And thank Kathleen again. And I hope you'll be my guest again.
I hope I get a chance to be your guest. And as always, I have brought you a small present, which, I hope I can find it. This is I can. It's right here.
Ooh, oh, boy.
This is, last time I brought him a larger first aid kit, but this is the little pocket first aid kit. And we hope that you will come and maybe you can get those for stocking stuffers or something, end of the year treats for your friends. Okay. So on behalf of the Red Cross, be prepared.
All right, thank you. All right, folks, we'll see you next time on Financial Insider Weekly.
Should be a clock.
Don't worry about it. Look at me. I'll worry about the time. He does put a little count.